then maybe we'll see if they have some other synergies planned along with her. But that's a great point. This map opens up more for Crowan, and though we've seen impressive play, he's been focused a lot on in the draft from Gale Force. Hanzo bans. Gale Force doesn't care about Hanzo. They haven't been planning it. They haven't been playing it, so they have been planning on those bans. And then the control over Greymane, it feels like they have said when we ban Hanzo, if we give them the Greymane, then Crowan goes into that and we figure out how to play around it, how to be better. Part of that is taking away the Tyrael, like they did in the last game, and that's been working out really well. Gale Force one game away from winning the series.
Yeah, they're contemplating the Hanzo, that or they've already locked it in and they just want to talk about the rest of their draft on possible scenarios here. So with the Hanzo ban, you open up the door, of course, for Tyrael, but you could also just let through Genji or Greymane if you're on the side of HeroesHearth, and then take whatever's left over there. So there is some play, I think, around this for HeroesHearth. Genji seems likely. Tyrael, I think, starting to rise maybe. Just Genji.
Just get rid of it. Now, does Gale Force feel like they want Greymane here? The great immortal damage that he does, solid all-around hero. Do they get Tyrael here? And then give the Greymane, knowing that HeroesHearth don't get Sanctification, the dive buddy that Tyrael gives to that Greymane?
I could always lock in an early ETC. I think that if you go Tyrael, you give up potentially. We've seen the ETC Malthael rotation 3 games in a row from both teams in the second rotation. So you could get Tyrael here and then potentially ETC Greymane, where Malthael doesn't have as much high of priority on this one. They still get the Tyrael. Now for HeroesHearth, where does their priority lie? Is it ETC? Is it Greymane? Is it one? Or is it both? We're going to find out.
Is it Malthael?
Yeah.
Though maybe the priority goes down, you still have that kind of pseudo-global of having on a pale horse to go back and forth. You have Death Shroud for a slow build poke over the Immortal. Still offers a lot here, and for team fights, which has been a priority for these teams and will be on this map.
You know, Malthael, Gilly, we were looking at some stats earlier. North America, the most successful Malthael region by far, coming into today at around 67%. The rest of the world, not so fortunate in terms of their Malthael play. Globally, he sits at around 55%, which means North America carrying the weight there.
Well, we also play him way more than everyone else, though. A lot more priority.
It's because he's good.
Yeah, if you can make it work, then why not? And they get him with one of his counters, too. Yeah,
Lucio obviously using that sound barrier against the Tormented Souls. See, you know, I really wonder when we get the Malthael minor rework that we have coming soon, if we'll see more Last Rites. We've seen it already.
That's what I've heard.
It's very different.
That Last Rites was
but you also have
in
the
the
cleave now.
Game. Right, yeah. Oh.
So you don't have to worry about spreading as much.
Yep.
And there's no more armor on Tormented Souls. Just cleave everybody and then just smash Q.
I've heard that that is the case, that there's going to be a lot more Last Rites play. Oh, we'll have to see. It's exciting times to come for HGC. And what's been coming our way through the pipeline in Heroes, Maiev, Som's favorite hero. Yes, oh Maiev, yes.
Oh my, I'm terrified of that hero.
She's fun, she's really fun. Greymane E2C. Good all-round draft for Gale Force. Puts B-Kid on Tyrael, but he's played his fair amount, his fair share in the time that they've been drafting Tyrael and ETC together. HeroesHearth.
Give me my Li Ming now. Give me my Crowan Li Ming, because you've got to have something. Greymane Hanzo taken away, Genji not there. This is a perfect opportunity to run Li Ming. ETC, Tyrael, yes, they can dive, but Li Ming in Crowan's hands, it's scary. It also gives you the mosh pit interrupt and forces out a potential stage dive. Could, you know, depending on where the draft goes, could see something different, but Li Ming, I think, is definitely more possible. Since we have the Tyrael rework, as people were talking about the level 1 talent providing so much shielding, Pulse Bomb not as effective around these styles, and you've got a lot of, between Tyrael, Greymane, ETC, they can live through a lot.
Is there any concern, though, if you get a Li Ming and a Malthael, you are a lot more...
Or just be like,
poke.
I don't need it.
Like, you're very slow. You have good immortal damage, but it's slow. It's poke-based as you're kind of trying to poke down. I guess as long as they made sure to get a strong frontliner up in front who could make sure and stay strong in front. The Leeming ban from HeroesHearth is pretty interesting because it sort of does negate some of their possible picks for that next ranged carry damage dealer that they'll get. But Gale Force is going to limit that even further by the Cassia ban.
But I think that right now, if HeroesHearth holds their damage dealer, their second damage dealer, they might see if Uther comes out on the side of Gale Force, then go Lunara themselves. That's another backup hero for Crowan. It's a little bit further down the list, but it rises in priority depending on the enemy team composition. So they could play around that. A lot of damage dealers have either been banned or picked up so far. Range in particular, it's 4 ranged heroes that have been going down. Tychus is always going to be a threat, but BOE, you generally don't look at Tychus as the higher priority. It's more just a safer style. And normally a secondary, essentially.
Lunara Malthael can have... They can suffer with the... Ooh.
That opens up the Tracer. That opens up the Tracer.
Tass Diablo. What I was going to say is Lunara Malthael is very poison-centric and would make Uther's life hell, but also it does sometimes struggle to make sure to finish off the kills from the fight. But here, I don't think it's going to be that. I think we're going to see something that makes sure that they can get the kills. Tassadar Diablo returns for HeroesHearth. When their backs are against the wall, so will Gale Force be with the Force Wall.
There's an... Okay, so Tracer maybe less... Tracer maybe coming over to Gale Force was where I was actually not going with that. Vala might have been considered here.
I think they'll have to now.
But with Tracer, Vala is scary. She's super squishy, one of the lowest health pools in the game. Her and Tassadar have really low health pools.
What a move! What a move!
That's pretty baller right there.
That was pretty cool. What's going to follow it up? Something who follows up the Diablo slam into the Force Wall.
Tychus feels like a, I guess I have to go with this hero type style.
Yeah.
Lunara, maybe, but Tychus, if you're looking at, look, I got to survive this.
Give him the axe, man. Zul'jin it up.
Ooh. Zul'jin, has he been played?
No.
0 games globally. You laugh, but it's time. His new Lunar skin, by the way,
is really
dude,
cool.
I bought it like instant. I logged in, and it was just like, what Lunar skins do I want? I logged it in.
All right.
Tychus, it's not a bad hero. It just probably feels like, I don't know, man. It's like you go to your fridge, you're trying to like cook something for dinner, you look in your cabinet, and all that you have is leftovers, and you're like, I mean, this isn't bad, but I guess this is all I got.
I was like, where are we going with this metaphor? It was good. It was top notch.
I've been there before. You literally go for like, I think I got some biscuits in here. I guess this is probably about it.
Yeah,
you know?
It's not like it's terrible. It's not like you're going to be going hungry, but it's not like you've got a great grilled cheese there just sitting there making you happy.
You're going to equate top-tier assassins that will make your life wonderful to a grilled cheese?
Grilled cheese is the cream of the crop. The best food you can get. They're going to say I was going to, like a nice steak
grilled
or something.
Cheese, yeah. You're like a nice grilled, the next word that comes into your mouth is cheese. Not steak, not chicken, cheese.
Let's go.
Do you at least put butter on the bread?
Yes, of course. I'm not a heathen.
Grilled cheese?
It's delicious. Gale Force Esports, maybe without drafting, we have no clue if that Tracer was going to be the choice for HeroesHearth or if they wanted this Tychus all along. I would venture a guess to say that if they wanted something else, the Tracer at least threw them off enough from that because of how long that Tychus pick took and the way that they had set up. They were down to the one last pick. They needed to take some time to gather their thoughts on that.
The one thing that can go well for HeroesHearth is the Diablo charge. If a Tracer does try and come in, especially around Battlefield of Eternity, there's the terrain, especially around the objective. So you could easily kind of get that poke in. So those are things that can work in your favor. Outside of that, your lockdowns are nil. You don't have any other type of stun other than the Diablo charge.
Sound barrier, though, has been in the past something that teams have picked as a Tracer counter because you get through the pulse bomb which is a lot of times in Tracer compositions, that's your big moneymaker. That's what's going to get you the kill. But in this sense, there's also a possible go for the throw. So that's something to keep in mind as you look at whether and when the sound barrier is used, if it's actually going to get the kill. Other things can help out too. Neo Steel Coating doesn't come in until level 13 for Tychus, but can help with some of the initial pulse bomb damage, even when you get percent damage that goes through armor. And Tormented Souls, it gives you some armor too if you're in that. We've got maybe Shroud of Wisdom again. There's some things to keep in mind for Heroes Hearth. And of course they have the shielding of Tassadar. That's going to be integral in helping out as well.
Both teams take down a wall and then start to rotate towards the opposing side. And then Gale Force is like, well, they backed off. Maybe we should go do something else. You know, Diablo requires a lot in Souls. BOE, there's Pulse Bomb. That's going to confirm kill number 1 on the Malthael. But Diablo doesn't stack as quickly on this. Diablo is a much stronger late game hero. And then if he does die after he has full souls, he has to kind of recoup all that. And I think that's the hardest part about BOE is that you have to make sure that you get souls and stay alive, else your value suffers tremendously on Battlefield of Eternity.
I mean, a lot of what Heroes Hearth has is geared toward the later stages of the game. Lucio, Tassadar, he's stacking up at 1. That's going to take some time. Malthael, he wants his 10, he wants Tormented Souls. Tychus is going to be stacking too, though he has minigun right away, but if he goes into In the Rhythm, or we'll see what he gets at 4s. Crowan's just about there. But when you have a Tracer, you get your heroic at the start of the game. It gets better at 10, but you get it, and that sets you up, as you can see, for those early kills. Amp It Up was there, and it barely keeps BBJ alive.
Barely is an understatement. I mean, he had to have like less than 10 health. Like, his health bar was literally gone. But he lived, and that's the main thing. The one thing that will also help is Tassadar getting that armor after that shield is broken, so...
Yeah, any armor that you can get helps you through those initial stages, those initial pulse bombs, while you're quite vulnerable. And then later on, you start to ramp up a lot more. And once they get sound barrier, that's going to help a lot, as we said before. But the first Immortal phase, spawning in a couple of seconds. We'll see how Heroes Hearth can hold on here, and if Gale Force can get any of those Tracer picks.
Yeah, so far, so good. Tracer has been an obvious threat here against this Heroes Hearth composition. As they're going to make their way down to the bot lane. They're going to have to defend against this camp. Gale Force is starting to take one minor structure at a time, and it's giving them a little bit of a lead, and it's also allowing them to kind of control the pace of this game. And the pacing part is just forcing Heroes Hearth to respond over and over again, and so far they haven't been able to dictate anything.
Gale Force holds. They pushed with that camp in the bottom. Now they are holding on around that, although they're going to see if they could get an Arthlon pick. But the main name of the game is for B-Kid to have cleared out that camp in the top, and for Gale Force to get 7. They are quickly approaching that talent tier, and we'll have that a little bit before Heroes Hearth, barring any Heroes Hearth kills right about now. Heroes Hearth is just using this time to do what poke damage they can to this Immortal until that point.
Yeah, I think that they're going to struggle. They get the flip and the dip, but B-Kid is going to be just fine to get out of there. When they get some damage in, I think the bigger problem is the amount of experience that Gale Force has just kind of incrementally obtained so far. They have about a half-level lead. They're the first to level 7. They've been in control of this game. They have 7. I expected them to at least move forward, but they're going to wait for Tyrael to come back. That's giving Heroes Hearth an opportunity to try and get a bit of experience back.
You had me giggling with how casually you said the flip and the dip. They get the flip and the dip as if that's a known thing. But here in HGC NA, it is the thing. Gale Force charges on in to get some Immortal damage done now that they have that 7. And on the topic of charges, Ishbu has found himself one tasty tree. Malfurion falls as the first kill for Heroes Hearth and gives them some time to get on the Immortal of Gale Force.
That positioning is a bit questionable, Gilly. How does Malfurion end up that far onto the enemy side? I don't know, but Heroes Hearth recognized it. They capitalize on it. Biggie is sitting on a pulse bomb, so Heroes Hearth has to be careful. The slide directly into the Immortal stun. Nice recognition there by Fury. Gets the flip, the boop out of it though, however.
People from Heroes are starting to get low. Biggie picking and choosing for that pulse bomb. Is that the buffet? and he's trying to find his grilled cheese. HeroesHearth backing out as the defense there around the Immortal, knowing that Akaface was going to be back.
Remind me never to like invite you out for dinner or something. We go to like this fancy buffet and you're going to be like, hey, can I get a grilled cheese?
Doesn't exist. Fancy buffet, not a thing. Already not possible.
What?
Level 8 now here for HeroesHearth. I don't know why that was a level for me to talk about because it does very little, but I was trying to change the point. Oh, HeroesHearth, they're just about to get this ticking down.
Yeah,
so,
the poke from Malthael is working. Slow and steady wins the Immortal.
And the Storms to the Grenade. We're going to see the swap in position. Who gets aggressive? Who wants to defend? Who wants to be looking for kills? We know Gale Force wants to be looking for kills. They've got Fury and Big E with the Pulse Bomb. He's been holding for quite a while out here.
They got to be careful. Ishbu will look to find you in one of those chokes, pin you against the wall, and look for the team to capitalize. Ishbu and team, they're going in. Stun back onto Ishbu, however. Arthalon split off. Fury with a nice power slide has got Crowan in trouble. Crowan is going to go down. He's the first. Will there be more?
That was amazingly well done. Biggie dropped the Pulse Bomb, and that painted a bullseye on Crowan for not only Fury, but B-Kid too to follow up. Now Biggie on the chase will not be stopped. Finally, Ishbu does enough to dissuade him from going after McIntyre any farther, but Gale Force have pushed back all of HeroesHearth so far that beyond that, there was still a Greymane, and he was still working on the Immortal.
I mean, Ishbu saved McIntyre so hard there.
Twice.
He better be making him a grilled cheese sandwich for that one.
Yes, he should, and likely will, especially if HeroesHearth can get the win here. But it is dire straits for them right now. Gale Force are going to counter push this bottom lane. They'd already done a lot of damage there. They're looking to take out both ports at once. The Immortal up in the top as Beacon's going to go join it, though. Fury gets in danger, had to use the Nature's Cure to get him out. He had the slow and the kill. The Pulse Bomb on the other side of the fight. Big impact, though, does not kill the Diablo. There's Twilight Dream as they hit 10. That was huge by Akaface.
One more auto attack. That's going to do it. So I had alluded to this point last week, I believe, maybe 2 weeks ago, about one of the things that teams in Europe would do, namely Team Expert last year, was if the shielding was low on the Immortal, they would instantly just push the other lane. Except when I say instantly, they would hide, right? They would hide their 4-man and the solo. That way it would force the enemy team to not know, are they pushing with this? Are they not pushing with this? And it was right around the 50% shield mark. There was an incredibly low shield, and Gale Force did that. However, they pushed in instantly, did not have the minions, did not have the control, and HeroesHearth was able to respond quickly. They still lost both forts, but they lost an ETC in the process. And I think if they do that a little bit differently, you can actually get more out of that if you just play it about 5 seconds more patiently.
Yeah, it was nice to see HeroesHearth be able to punish and get the kill on Fury before Heroics were there, but then Biggie kind of did the same thing. That was a nice power slide out of that. BBJ is in so much danger. B-Kid will join the fray. Apocalypse goes down. Avoided largely by Gale Force Esports as the Pulse Bomb comes out, chasing down McIntyre. Ishbu also in danger. He falls, and it's a full death for him. Gale Force Esports, even with Heroics now there for HeroesHearth, and then being able to use them, still comes out on top in that engagement.
I believe we saw Judgment come out in there.
We did. He judged right into the Apocalypse, which looks scary, but then he used the movement speed that he had to juke on out of that.
I mean, right now, the Judgment going in, still holding onto the mosh, but there was actually an opportunity where it looked like Fury might go ahead and lock that in and get there, but they got the quick blow up. No need to grab that just yet. Again, the only real counter going to be APOC Grenade and then a Lucio Boop. So you have a couple things to play around, but if you can find those opportunities, you can definitely get that max value out of it.
Next Immortal phase, HeroesHearth gets back on the board as Gale Force are approaching 13. Wanted to get some damage done there to the Immortal. And great dodges as Gale Force, the full force of Gale Force gets in. They have Greymane still on the back, or behind them, working on the Immortal of HeroesHearth. There's the combo. It's on big impact with the Force Wall and the charge. Gets a whole lot scarier when you start stacking up devastating charge stacks at 13. And when you have the double dip for the other flip back over.
Gets him in there, but the power slide, the Pulse Bomb in return. Ishbu, Sound Barrier is going to keep him alive for the moment, as is the shield from Tassadar. B-Kid, however, trying to get out of there. You know, the one thing that will work out in their favor, because that charge is on a longer cooldown force wall. They want to use it as much as they can. He did go diabolical momentum. You could see him sneaking in there, trying to get an auto attack or two, trying to find the next opportunity. Here comes the judgment.
There's no sound barrier to keep BBJ alive. When HeroesHearth Esports wants to strike, they will. They have the mosh pit though too, but they're on top of the immortal of HeroesHearth, and they got hit by the stuns of the apocalypse too. HeroesHearth Esports are turning this around.
Are you kidding me? How in the world do they live through that? HeroesHearth showing almost the status of invincibility throughout all of that. The judgment and the mosh pit, somehow HeroesHearth lived through that. Wow.
When there was a ton of Lucio play after he first came out, we did see an uptick in judgment because if you just blow Lucio up, he doesn't have the sound barrier. Here, he didn't have the sound barrier either because it was already used, but how did they live through this? Yeah, APOC is really good. They were on those stuns.
The APOC just bought enough time because any number of players from HeroesHearth could have gone there, but APOC was a clutch play by Ishbu to zone out and then get the interrupt on the mosh pit, things working in their favor. It also nets them their first immortal.
BBJ lived for, well, I was going to say far longer than he should have, but he lived the whole entire time, just juking around, dancing, speeding back and forth, sort of being a target while the rest cleaned up. Was great play there from HeroesHearth to stick together, for BBJ to stay alive. But to stick together, play this out, they get their immortal, they get to 13, and now they get some opportunities to try to even up the structures.
Yeah, Odin was used in that last team fight, so they don't have that sieging capability. They actually don't get the fort down. You can see Gale Force willing to try and fight back. I think they always got to be careful of that force wall potentially into the Diablo charge from here on out. Devastating charge at 13 was picked up. So as you said, when that gets ramped up with the double dip and flip at 16, that's when Diablo starts to become terrifying. He's also sitting on all of his souls, which is another reason why they're able to survive in these moments.
Super strong and tanky now, as we knew they would be once they got to this point. It was just getting to this point without losing too much and trying to even back out the structures now as they march on forward. Fury, just in case, is taken care of there.
Well,
gonna dive back in, roots underneath, pulse bomb on Ishbu.
That is going to be one tough Diablo to crack. I mean, they had
They
the
do, they reset the souls though.
They do, but the Tassadar shield was there. I mean, the percentage-based damage is nice. There's nothing that can really deal with that, right? Yeah. But it's just a matter of, that's a incredibly high health bar at level 14. That is, it's actually 6,185, almost a 6,200 health bar at this level. That is what 100 souls will get you.
Yeah, maybe we'll see the turnaround, the change up, trying to get a different target focused. Maybe a Judgment Pulse Bomb, and then a follow-up stun or a Twilight Dream, so the sound barrier is just not an option.
Neo Steel was a big pickup for them as well at 13. It's all stuff that you mentioned earlier, is that as this game goes on, they have a lot more options at their disposal to turn this around. You know, Tracer gets better wave clear, a little bit more AoE damage. Malfurion gets the ice block. You know, we have Holy Ground potentially coming in here. But in terms of the scaling-wise, in terms of the advantage, you got to think that level 13 talents are definitely in favor of HeroesHearth.
Totally agree. Gale Force playing more cautiously around that now as they find themselves a McIntyre. Instant tormented souls for him as he tries to stay alive until the team can get back in. Odin used from this too. Gale Force kind of in a weird position from this. They're going to mount up, try to cycle back around.
Yeah, both teams on the wrong side of the map if you're looking at colors, but this over here, McIntyre trying to get out of there before the Holy Ground goes on. You can see the ping for help there, looking for an opportunity. Any moment they can open that up, but Greymane and team have actually had to fall back because that Shaman camp that was timed so well by HeroesHearth is now going to be pushing, but HeroesHearth, they're making a group effort to make sure and get this as well. They send it to the halftime show, give themselves a little bit of time, but they got to be careful not to get caught out here.
It was a great decision by Gale Force to back off when they did. They were utilizing the safety of their immortal, but with the Odin and the Malthael poke that they had, that was a ticking time bomb that they could have been engaged on, and that's the place where HeroesHearth would hope to engage before Gale Force gets to 16. Yes, Gale Force lose out on some of the immortal health, but when they change up in position, they can head to that, defend until they get the 16, which is great Greymane's job to get them.
Yeah, and that's going to be any moment now. They just need to get a few more minions. They can just kind of wait. They're casually defending, cautiously defending. Michael Udall look to come down, recognize 16's there. He's going to clear out a few minions. There it is. Look for him to rotate down. Look for Gale Force to be aggressive.
Biggie's watching to make sure nobody goes up and rotates, takes out Greymane while he was the soloer. Now with that 16, Fury gets flipped into the Immortal now. Judgment goes in. The target has been found. They take him out. It's Lucio. Apocalypse is down, but it's going to be way too late. Go for the throw, takes out one. Crowan's now in danger. They've got Ishbu in the back. The fight in two fronts works out both times in favor of Gale Force Esports.
That is a masterful performance in terms of execution, recognizing your attempts. They're going to work down to try and get the keep here. They can do this with Greymane pretty easily. You can't end the game, but it opens up. It takes the keep down more so. You get the Immortal. You could potentially open 2 keeps. Heroes Hearth without 16. It's going to be tough because what they want to try and do is get 16 and force a fight before this Immortal goes down, but I don't think they're going to have time.
Biggie was looking to put the pressure on to Tassadar, but not getting that will fall back. Gale Force Esports takes out a keep, setting them up nicely for this next Immortal. HeroesHearth don't quite have 16, but they want to strike as soon as they get it. So they're going out into position. They're willing to cautiously defend this Immortal and try to wither down the health bar of Gale Forces, at least so they don't have to deal with a highly shielded one.
Yeah, this is actually one of the things that can counter. Going for that keep is nice, but it's a matter of you have to get the keep and the Immortal. Now you run the risk of giving up the Immortal. The keep is nice. You probably won't lose a keep in return because you have a 4th there, but in terms of maximizing, it's going to be there. But Crowan, the lock in the slide as the Holy Ground isolating them. Diablo trying to make things happen, but the Judgment comes in.
Judgment's in on McIntyre as Biggie's still chasing him down, though he's in quite a lot of danger, taken a lot of damage, had the Reaper's Mark there. B-Kid wanted to chase down Crowan too. So some split focus between the members of Gale Force on a couple of different people from Heroes Hearth, but it's enough. Pulse Bomb takes out Diablo again. He's a lot weaker now that he's lost those souls, and he also has the longer cooldown timer. Arthalon, cheeky.
Getting the Immortal, though, would mean so much. They need 270 damage. This, essentially, you can't stagger the deaths. That's the problem. BBJ has to get out of there.
Using the speed boost. At the wall right now, hoping to dodge. 1, 2, 3. Diablo 16, 30 seconds until Tassadar not too far behind is Lucio. They get the Immortal, but I'm not sure what all they can get done with it, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, even getting the fort here would seem like a win for Heroes Hearth, but by not giving up the Immortal, I mean, they could have defended against an Immortal. They honestly could have defended, but they wanted to prioritize prolonging this game, giving themselves another window to come back. But much like the timeline that we saw for LFM, the timeline for Heroes Hearth at this point is they're on even talent tiers. The fort stays. Right now, Heroes Hearth has to take a fight. There is no ifs, ands, buts about it. You have to take a fight before 20, else you will fall into the same position that you were last time. You get the talent tier behind, and then they instantly strike, and that's a much more difficult to take, a much more difficult fight to take.
They were waiting for Lucio, and in that time, went and got their camp. Bottom camp was also taken by Gale Force Esports, which kind of gives an inkling as to the positioning for them, for Heroes Hearth to try to find someone. Nice, Nature's Cure.
Oh my god.
Nice, Nature's Cure.
If he gets split back into that other wall, Gilly, that is a dead Tracer. That might have just done enough to save them the colossal defeat of losing a hero. One at a time is all Heroes Hearth needs. And it gives them that catch-up experience.
Do what you can. If Gale Force won't give you a fight, if you can't catch anybody out, steal the camp, which is what they're going to get. Slow them down. But it still does not alleviate the threat of level 20 and Storm Talents for Gale Force.
You know, I talked to Udall coming into this week, and it was the previous week where they gave up that game on Battlefield of Eternity. They were just shy of level 20. And the late game decision-making hurt them in that game. He recognized that. He felt really bad about that. And they recognized that the late game decision-making, especially there, so close to 20, they're not willing to make the same mistake, not willing to go out there. They're willing to give up the camp. The Immortals spawning in 15 seconds, and they are well on their way to 20.
They were so close to 20 when he dove in. There's the power slide. There's the flip too. Fury power slides on out. They've got the roots behind that too. Does a lot. Pulse Bomb hits. Ishbu nearly dead. Michael Udall wanted to go in, but BBJ booped him back. Biggie ready to chase again. But the call has been made. Gale Force stays safe, stays respectful of Heroes Hearth. Time to fight. They want to fight.
But the positioning right here is in favor of Gale Force because HeroesHearth now is forced to go to the side of Gale Force to take this fight, but Tyrael is soaking that top lane close to 20. Gale Force, this is their moment. This is their moment to try and win this game, close out this series, put some of those early demons behind them, and move forward on their race for the clash.
They have to step back forward and try to do anything to this immortal health bar if they can. Now Gale Force is at 20. ETC gets so much scarier now with that 20. Angel of Justice now too, a lot more judgments and a lot longer range from that.
This is tough for HeroesHearth. They might just have to give this up, Gilly. They might just have to try and side soak, give this up. Catapults will be mounting in the bottom lane as this game goes on. Right now, HeroesHearth, they have to defend. Sometimes you just want to give this up, get your race towards 20. Use Odin to potentially defend against the Immortal, which will be pushing that top lane where the keep still stands.
HeroesHearth are without a doubt between a rock and a hard place, and being down in this series, they are out of options. They're going to try their best to stay here and defend, slow this down, but they have nobody split soaking, nobody, no globals, nobody to do that. McIntyre would be on the Malthael, does not have on a Pale Horse, but still would be the one to go down and do it. They're going to send Tassadar because of that double storm, the Psionic Echo, to try to clear that out. Gale Force see that and immediately go in for the Immortal.
That's all it takes is that one little bit of moment, and B-Kid getting flipped around, but the counter stun onto Ishbu. The APOC has been forced. They only get the stun onto ETC, but look for ETC potentially turn this. The mosh pit's going to be there. There's the power slide. Oh! The door boss is in there. Fury making the plays happen. Two members down on the side of HeroesHearth, but one goes down on Gale Force.
HeroesHearth are fighting for their lives right now as Crowan and the Odin fall, but so does Michael Udall. That is a lot of the damage as Arthalon's being chased, trying to stay out of vision from Big E as he runs away into the minions. He will also fall. That's 4 kills down for HeroesHearth. Gale Force has the Tyrael, the Malfurion, and the Tracer. They're chasing after McIntyre. McIntyre's buying a lot of time here for his teammates.
Judgment is back. He goes down. All Gale Force needs to do is to race this Immortal. That staggered death is one of those things that if HeroesHearth makes it back in time to potentially defend the second phase of this Immortal, which seems mostly unlikely, Malthael's not going to be there, but Fury becomes the prime target, Gilly, in this fight because he was the only one caught in APOC, but he turned it quick.
Yes, he did. You see the Tormented Souls trying to keep back everyone else, but he had that, and then his famous tour buses, as you just see, many people blowing up from that. Eventually, Crowan also falls, although he's using that armor, and he lives for a long time, gets the poke in a way that McIntyre can take down Greymane too, and that slows the ability to take the Immortal for Gale Force Esports quite a bit, not having that extra damage from the Worgen form of Greymane. Gale Force Esports slowly taking this Immortal out as they want to get the Mercenary push in the top. This is giving time for HeroesHearth to get back up too, though, and also to try to get to 20.
Yeah, they'll get 20 off the minions alone. The other thing it gives them is big red button on Odin, which is one of the best defensive tools, having that extra time on the Odin, having that big center damage to try and take down this. But this is a massive shield on this Immortal, as well as the camp that's going to be pushing behind it. If HeroesHearth is going to defend, they are going to have to fight for their lives because Gale Force is on the march and they're looking for victory.
Gale Force getting that Immortal when they did also gives them Mosh Pit back up. Crowan drops the Odin down. See Arthalon from the side. McIntyre diving deep, getting onto anyone he possibly can, throwing back Gale Force Esports. HeroesHearth hoping to take the fight beyond, take it past that Immortal. McIntyre, Tormented Souls has been done now. Now the turnaround's happening. McIntyre goes down, but he's Malthael. He has no one can stop death, and the team has turned around, and they're working on the Immortal quickly.
An impressively calculated approach, knowing that he had that at his available, or as disposable at level 20. They're now, the shield is down on the Immortal, which means they can hold against this. The keep is going to go down, but they cannot afford to give up any members. We also have Mosh Pits available again. Ishbu going in there potentially looking for a fight. APOC is available, but now they're turning their attention onto Diablo.
Yeah, the Judgment went in, Diablo went down. He is not going to be back up, did not have the soul, so it's 4 people without the frontliner. McIntyre gets thrown back in. Twilight Dream as he tried to teleport on through to avoid that. He got thrown back from the Immortal. Now Lucio falls. Gale Force Esports has taken out 4 members of HeroesHearth Esports. They still have the Immortal on the core, and they will win this series 3-1. That keeps their hopes for the Western Clash alive.
Oh man, HeroesHearth, I almost thought they were just going to fall back and defend at core there, Killy. They could have probably fallen back. Ishbu got in there, and they collapsed on Diablo. He went flying at some point, but
yeah, and then the immortal spin through back Malthael too. It just felt like the pressure maybe starting to get to HeroesHearth there at the end. There's a ton of pressure there. That is their qualification match. That is qualification
for many people.
Yeah, for many people. But for them too, the head-to-head here, Gale Force is the closest team to them in standings. So it was also fear of that too. The series had not been going the way that maybe they expected it to go, but Gale Force put on a clinic in this series.
If you take away the wonky backdoor Lieutenant Morales Juice Pirate strategy on Volskaya, everything that they played standard worked for them. And it worked really well. Today's decision-making is the best decision-making Gale Force I have seen in a long time. Going all the way from their game number 1 on Tomb, where they were decisive with their rotations, using the Medivh, and then they worked it into the Jaina composition in both games 1 and 3 in their favor, controlled a lot of that. Towers of Doom, they controlled the later part of Towers of Doom. And here on Battlefield of Eternity, they controlled the later part of this. This is a much better mid to late game decision-making team that we saw during the first 2 weeks of the season.
I also feel like their drafting was top-notch. Their focus on the Hanzo bans. Hanzo's a strong hero anyway, but there are a lot of heroes now that people are looking at for bans. And to take Hanzo away from Crowan and to know that he is like to go on Greymane, or to take Greymane in those couple of games. The Volskaya one we saw, it didn't work out for them, but they took it here. It worked out well, and it sort of punished HeroesHearth for not being willing to draft and get that hero further up in the draft. They had other things that they were wanting to get more.
Even that Tracer pick in that back end. That was the ultimate clincher in that draft, because then you're looking at, because Cassia was banned, Hanzo's banned, Genji's banned, Greymane and Tracer are both picked up. Li Ming was banned out by HeroesHearth. That almost condemned them at that point in the draft. Again, Tychus is not a bad option, but when you look at that draft, I'm sure they would probably be like, look, maybe we shouldn't have banned this hero, because you're left with limited options. Tychus, Vala, and maybe a Lunar, or even Zul'jin we alluded to, which hasn't been seen at all. And at that point, you now become a prime focus. Any of those heroes now become a prime focus for Tracer style, who ended up getting the Malfurion on the side of Gale Force. So drafting-wise for Gale Force was just, I mean, that was crystal clear as far as what they were trying to do. They deceived HeroesHearth, and I think that worked out very well for them in that last game.
And it was a big weekend for HeroesHearth. They had the 2 series. They had the series versus Simplicity on Friday. So they had 2 different series they had to plan for. Gale Force Esports themselves will tell you, those double weekends, they're a tough one. To have all the strategies to make sure that you're keeping them straight, you're not showing too much, and having the time to be able to prepare for both teams and get all those strategies practiced. For Gale Force Esports, that was their sole series for the weekend. So they were able to watch and see what was happening versus Simplicity and respond appropriately, and I do believe we can say that it was the appropriate response. They did a great job this series.
Yeah, there's teams that we've heard from in the past that will say that, look, this might be one of our primary scrim partners, especially if you have 1 to 2 series especially. Normally teams won't scrim each other if they have a matchup that weekend.
Right.
We've heard certain teams go into that, and I know there were certain teams this week that actually had to play along that schedule, which might have hurt some of these teams coming into this weekend. So that is an excellent point there, is that they had maybe the less practice scrim schedule, but also Gale Force just sat around all weekend eating their popcorn, watching a little bit of HGC. And they come in on Sunday, they're like, look, we'll send it off the right way, as they just muddy up the waters. Gilly, there were so many teams that could have qualified tonight.
We cannot even begin to start looking at the math. We will start looking at the math, but nobody except Tempo Storm from NA is for sure qualified now. We have to look at matches, head-to-heads, games. There's a lot of things to keep in mind and consider when we look at it, and we'll fill you in. We'll clue you in on Friday as to where
it's
everything
like calculus,
stands.
You know? It's like
Yeah, there's a lot to keep in mind. And it's all thanks to this team and this player. Let's check in with B-Kid now from Gale Force Esports. B-Kid, you guys had to win that series. You had to stay in the running for Western Clash. How are you guys feeling now?
I feel really good, man. Honestly, we didn't really have to win because we're trying to go for the Crucible, but you know, this is a plus. As long as we can get back down the next split, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's really important you go Western Clash, then down. We heard you talk about that.
Right.
I want to talk about you guys' drafting strategies because your drafts were awesome. You had the Tracer at the end there as kind of a deny away. Were you guys heavily focused on what felt like Crowan, or were you focused on something else within drafts?
Oh, we weren't even thinking about Crowan. We were just doing us, you know, what works for us. You know, I wasn't even thinking about Crowan at all, actually.
Well, it kind of worked out there. He didn't ever get his Hanzo, which he's still undefeated with at this point. Yeah,
Okay.
what did you think about the series? What were your plans after seeing how they played versus Simplicity on Friday?
We thought that they played really well against them, and then they looked pretty strong. But then we realized that they only won games when they were playing Hanzo. So when we banned out Hanzo, it got a lot easier.
Well, that it did. I'm going to save what I think J-How's going to ask about, which is the Volskaya game. I'll send you over to J-How now.
That's one of my questions.
I
One of
thought
my
so.
questions. But, you know, B-Kid, we saw you guys last time on Battlefield of Eternity. You were just shy of 20. You got a little bit antsy. You ended up falling in that game. And it seems like that mid to late game decision-making that we had kind of seen from past Gale Force iterations was kind of coming back. But today's decision-making rotations seem to be on another level. Is that a big focus for you guys in your schedule and your scrims and stuff like that coming into this weekend?
Oh yeah, that's a huge focus for us. Shout out to our coach Cavalier and our shot caller Udall. They focused very heavily on that, and then it worked out.
It did work out, and we saw the strategy come together. We're going to talk about Volskaya now. You guys obviously had something in mind, and then things didn't quite get off to the start that you wanted, but you guys kept at it. Have you had previous results? Was this something on the fly? Like, where does this come from?
We actually practiced a couple times in a scrim and it worked, but we didn't play against Cassia, so it kind of backfired. But like we went into the game saying like if we win, we win. We lose, we go to Crucible. You know what I mean? Like I didn't really care. So we tried, but it didn't work out. So we just moved on to the next game.
Well, the next game definitely creates a lot of next games for a lot of people here. Going into our final week before Clash, do you guys kind of see going into next week, like where do you see your chances? I mean, maybe Clash now, Crucible later, as you're implying, but going to Clash, how much of a focus is that, and how much do you guys feel confidence-wise going into next week?
We feel very, very confident. I mean, like honestly, even though I don't care about Clash, like I think my whole team, they all want to go to Clash, so like I'm gonna do it for them. But at the end of the day, my goal is back to back to back, Crucible champion, baby.
There you go.
Good luck to you, my friend.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right. Any final words about your matchup versus Tempo Storm next week?
Tempo, I think Tempo is like one of the best teams, and we're gonna come out strong, and then hopefully we can take the win. But you know, who knows? It'll be a good game, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Congratulations again, and shout outs now if you've got them.
Shout out to my team. Shout out to everyone that's watching. Shout out to God. Shout out to our coach and our analyst Cavalier and Courtney, and our sponsor. Thank you. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, B-Kid. Congrats again.
Thank you.
Last weekend, HeroesHearth came in, and they upset Team 12 in our final match of the weekend. And we were like, okay, that just happened. This weekend, we had the math figured out. We were like, okay, things are going as we thought. Gale Force comes in and says, nope, none of that math. You have to redo all of your calculations. And Sophist, I'm sorry, because that's probably going to be you. I'm not going to do that.
He's going to go into the office tomorrow and be like, I've got a case of the Mondays. It's like, it's going to be so bad that he might just wait till Tuesday, right? Obviously, he's going to be on top of his job. We actually got to talk about it with him at Link this weekend. We talked about it on our break coming into this series where it's like, if HeroesHearth wins, the final three teams qualify alongside Tempo Storm. Anything beyond that becomes major headache for everybody but us because we don't have to do too much. That we'll wait for somebody. And now it makes North America so compelling going into next week. We have 2 days next week. 2 days. Potential playoffs if things get a little crazy on Sunday.
Yeah.
But 2 days of, like, really important action.
There's way more drama for NA. I'm so happy that it went down this way. Because we don't know. It's just Tempo Storm there for North America after their win over LFM this weekend. Meanwhile, the math has been done. We calculated some things, and it's Dig, Fnatic, and Method who have qualified. So huge congrats to those 4 teams. Europe is going to be in a death match trying to figure out that last one. We've got some stuff trying to figure out those last 3 NA teams. It's going to be a good time. I'm very excited that we are leaving it up to more of the closer, the final weekend, those matches.
The thing about it is that it's not just because, like, all right, you know, like, this didn't go well for one team, this didn't go well for the other. It's that teams are stepping up. Like, teams are legit stepping up in this region. Like, I'm not kidding when I say the rotations from Gale Force today were the best that I've seen. And we're talking about the length of an entire series here. We'll take Volskaya out of the equation. That was just a weird one. You can blame Cassia, right? But if you look at the 3 games and their rotations and the way that they played, that is what you expect from a top-tier team in terms of rotations, draft, things like that. They hit all the check marks today in terms of a team that could be there. Gale Force, of course, they had the high, they had the low, they're back on a high. Can they stay on that level to continually do that? And it looks, if they can keep up like today, that is a strong showing for going forward.
J-House, Simplicity, played the best they've ever played. Space Station, upset Team Freedom. LFM played their best match yet. Everybody is playing just so well.
It's fun.
And we're going to continue it next Friday. Let's see what everybody's last match on Friday will be. 1 match per team. The final match. And there's so much on the line. Team Dignitas takes on the Zealots. And then Method versus Tricked Esports. Zealots and Tricked, those are 2 who are trying to stay within the running. For us in North America, Team Freedom versus Simplicity. And then B-Kid talked about it. Tempo Storm's a good team, but it should be a good match. Gale Force Esports versus Tempo Storm.
Yeah, obviously Simplicity cannot qualify at this point because they have 4 losses. Team Freedom, if they win, they're in. But of course, with Gale Force, HeroesHearth, teams like that, obviously Gale Force, they'll have their shot on Friday to see if they can potentially get in. And beyond that, I don't want to get in too much, but HeroesHearth plays the second day. Gale Force, you know, they win the head-to-head. There are so many variables that going into tomorrow, Friday will open the door for a few things to look clearer, but it could easily go to Saturday and then just the last game Saturday night to literally qualify for the Clash a few weeks later. That to me is so fun to be a part of, to see how that plays out. And the win today definitely helped make that possible.
And for the Eastern Clash, you know, we've been talking so much about the Western Clash, but don't forget the Eastern Clash will be happening just a couple weeks after that. And we already know a couple of teams who've qualified for that. Lolly Meow from Taiwan. And then also we have the 2 teams from Korea, which are Ballistics and Tempest. Curiously, no KSV Black there, J-How.
Yeah, that is a bit curious. Apparently, Samuro can't exactly carry you to more than 1 victory, I guess. You know, that was an exciting game earlier. But KSV, I don't know, man. Like, the rest of Korea seems to be stepping up their play as well. Tempest, just
don't mess with Domi.
Absolute dominant force.
Yeah, they're pretty scary. Well, that does it for us here at HGC for this weekend. We'll be back next weekend for the conclusion of Part 1. Have a good night.